Welcome, Tolkien enthusiasts and Middle-earth explorers. Today, we're journeying into the darkest corners of Arda to examine the two greatest forces of evil in Tolkien's legendarium, Morgoth and Sauron. Many casual fans know Sauron as the Dark Lord from The Lord of the Rings, the disembodied flaming eye atop Barad-dûr. But fewer are familiar with his master, the first Dark Lord who shaped the very foundations of evil in Middle-earth. In this comprehensive exploration, we'll uncover the origins, motivations, powers, and legacies of these iconic villains. We'll analyze their fundamental differences, their complex relationship, and how their actions shaped the entire history of Arda across thousands of years. So grab your Silmarils, put on your mithril armor, and let's journey into the shadows of Middle-earth's most terrifying beings. Before diving into who these Dark Lords were individually, we need to understand the cosmology of Tolkien's universe. In the beginning, there was Eru Ilúvatar, the One, the supreme creator deity. Eru created the Ainur, immortal spirits formed from his thought, each embodying different aspects of his mind. The Ainur sang the music of the Ainur, a vast cosmic symphony that became the blueprint for all creation. From this music, Arda, the world, was born. Some of the Ainur descended into Arda to help shape it according to the music. Those who entered Arda became known as the Valar, the powers of the world, and the Maiar, lesser spirits who served the Valar. This brings us to our two Dark Lords, Melkor, later Morgoth, the most powerful of the Ainur, a being of immense power who fell through pride and the desire to create things of his own. Mairon, later Sauron, a Maya of the Vala Aule, a spirit of tremendous knowledge and skill who was seduced by Melkor's vision. What makes this origin significant is that neither began as evil. Both started as forces meant to build and enhance the world. Their falls represent fundamentally different paths to darkness, and understanding these paths is key to understanding their contrasting natures. Melkor was, at the beginning, the mightiest of the Ainur. Tolkien described him as possessing a share in all the gifts of his brethren. He was brilliant, powerful, and understood the deepest secrets of creation. But Melkor's brilliance became his downfall. During the music of the Ainur, he grew impatient with Eru's themes and inserted his own discordant notes. He wanted to create independently, to bring forth things from his own imagination, rather than follow the plan set by Eru. This desire for independent creation might not seem so terrible. After all, isn't creativity a positive trait? But in Tolkien's cosmology, true creation is the sole domain of Eru. The Ainur were meant to elaborate on Eru's themes, not compose their own symphony. When Melkor descended into Arda, he saw the work of the other Valar and was consumed by envy. He couldn't create as they did. He could only corrupt and destroy. And so began his transformation, from Melkor to Morgoth. What truly sets Morgoth apart is the cosmic scale of his evil. He didn't just build a dark empire, he corrupted the very fabric of Arda itself. Tolkien wrote that Morgoth invested his power into the physical substance of the world, spreading his influence throughout all matter. This is called Morgoth's ring, not a physical ring like Sauron's, but the concept that Morgoth diffused his power into Arda itself, creating a foundation of darkness that could never be fully removed. This is why evil persists in Middle-earth, even after Morgoth's defeat. The world itself carries his taint. Every act of malice, every creature's capacity for cruelty, all echo Morgoth's original corruption. His greatest achievement in this corruption was the twisting of living beings. Orcs, corrupted from captured elves, transformed through torture and dark arts. Trolls, perhaps twisted from Ents or created as mockeries of them. Dragons, bred from unknown origins, possibly corrupted fire spirits. Balrogs, Maiar who were seduced to his service. Werewolves and vampires, spirits housed in monstrous physical forms. These weren't just armies, they were perversions of Eru's design, living symbols of Morgoth's spite. Morgoth's most famous act was the theft of the Silmarils, the 3 perfect jewels created by the elf Fëanor, which contained the light of the 2 trees of Valinor, the original light sources of the world. After stealing these jewels and murdering Fëanor's father, Finwë, Morgoth fled to Middle-earth and set the jewels in his iron crown. This act triggered the oath of Fëanor and his sons, who swore to recover the Silmarils at any cost, setting in motion the tragic events chronicled in the Silmarillion. For centuries, Morgoth ruled from his fortress Angband, beneath the triple-peaked mountain Tangorodrim. His reign was characterized by relentless warfare against elves, men, and dwarves, treachery that turned allies against each other, environmental devastation on a continental scale, psychological warfare through fear, despair, and false promises. Unlike Sauron's later rule, which was methodical and administrative, Morgoth's was primal and destructive. He didn't want subjects, he wanted slaves and sacrifices. After centuries of dominance, Morgoth's reign ended with the War of Wrath, the greatest conflict in Middle-earth's history. The Valar finally intervened directly, sending a vast host, led by Eonwë, the Herald of Manwë. The battle was so catastrophic, it shattered the western portion of Middle-earth. Mountains crumbled, land sank beneath the sea, and Beleriand, an entire subcontinent, was lost beneath the waves. Morgoth was defeated, his iron crown beaten into a collar, and his feet cut from under him. He was cast through the door of night into the void beyond the world, imprisoned, but not destroyed. According to Tolkien's later writings, Morgoth will eventually return, for a final battle at the end of days, the Dagor Dagorath, where he will be ultimately defeated and the world remade. While Morgoth began as the most powerful of the Ainur, Sauron's origins were more humble. He was a Maia in the service of Aule, the smith of the Valar, the deity associated with craftsmanship, earth, and making. This origin is crucial to understanding Sauron. Unlike Morgoth, who was driven by chaotic destruction, Sauron valued order and perfection. He was methodical, patient, and extraordinarily skilled. His fall wasn't immediate. Sauron was initially attracted to Melkor's efficiency and apparent power. He saw in Melkor someone who could impose order on a chaotic world. As Tolkien put it, Sauron had very early been attracted by the power that could be wielded through knowledge. This desire for efficiency and order would define Sauron's approach to evil throughout his existence. Where Morgoth destroyed for destruction's sake, Sauron destroyed as a means to an end, the creation of his perfect, controlled world. During the First Age, Sauron served as Morgoth's chief lieutenant. He commanded the fortress of Tol in Garhoth, Isle of Werewolves, where he kept watch over the critical pass of Sirion. Sauron's methods were already distinct from his masters. While Morgoth ruled through overwhelming force, Sauron specialized in espionage and intelligence gathering, psychological warfare, corruption of individuals through targeted manipulation, strategic control of key territories. His confrontation with Finrod Felagund and Beren is particularly illuminating. The two engaged in a magical duel of songs, revealing Sauron's mastery of not just physical, but spiritual warfare. After Morgoth's defeat, Sauron had a brief moment of repentance. He appeared before Eonwë, the Herald of Manwë, and seemed to seek forgiveness. But when told he would have to return to Valinor for judgment, his pride prevented him from accepting this humiliation. Instead, he hid in Middle-earth, disappearing for nearly 500 years as he plotted his return. Unlike Morgoth, who ruled through fear and force, Sauron understood the power of deception and psychological manipulation. When he re-emerged in the Second Age, he took a beautiful form and called himself Annatar, the Lord of Gifts. Targeting the elven smiths of Eregion, Sauron offered knowledge and assistance in crafting works of power. Only a few elves, like Gil-galad and Galadriel, mistrusted him. Under his guidance, the Rings of Power were forged, 3 for the elves, 7 for the dwarves, 9 for men. But secretly, in the fires of Mount Doom, Sauron created the One Ring, a master ring to control all others. This ring contained much of his native power and will, becoming an extension of his being. This strategy reveals the fundamental difference in how Sauron wielded power compared to Morgoth. Morgoth dispersed his power chaotically throughout Arda. Sauron concentrated his power into a single artifact, allowing for precise control. When the elves sensed Sauron's treachery and removed their rings, he launched a war of conquest. He destroyed Eregion and began building his empire in Mordor. Sauron's Mordor was the antithesis of Morgoth's chaotic Angband. It was highly organized with clear command structures, industrialized with vast forges and agricultural systems, strategically designed with defensive mountain ranges, fortifications, populated by loyal human cultures from the east and south. His greatest construction was Barad-dûr, the Dark Tower, a fortress that took 600 years to complete, and was bound to the One Ring's power. Sauron nearly conquered all of Middle-earth before the intervention of Numenor, the great kingdom of men. When the Númenóreans, led by Ar-Pharazôn, marched against him, Sauron, recognizing he couldn't win militarily, surrendered. What happened next demonstrates Sauron's genius for corruption. As a prisoner in Númenor, he gradually became the king's advisor. Over decades, he transformed the Númenóreans' culture from within, introducing human sacrifice to Morgoth, turning them against the Valar and elves, convincing them that immortality could be seized by force. Sauron's ultimate manipulation was convincing Ar-Pharazôn to sail against Valinor itself, an act that led to the destruction of Númenor by Eru's direct intervention. Although Sauron's physical form was destroyed in the Cataclysm, his spirit endured because of the ring. He returned to Mordor and eventually rebuilt his power. The culmination of Sauron's Second Age dominion was the War of the Last Alliance, where elves and men united against him. Though Sauron was defeated and lost the One Ring, his spirit endured. The Third Age saw Sauron operating from the shadows. Unable to take physical form for many years, he worked through servants and proxies. The Witch King and the Nazgûl, corrupted Easterlings and Haradrim, the Balrog of Moria indirectly, dragons and other remnants of Morgoth's creations. His greatest triumph was corrupting the White Council member Saruman, showing his continued skill at turning wisdom into folly. Only with the destruction of the One Ring was Sauron finally defeated, his power so diminished that he could never take form again in Middle-earth. Morgoth. Vast cosmic power derived from being the mightiest Ainur, capable of changing the physical geography of the world, used brute force and terror as primary methods, spread his power diffusely throughout Arda, created or corrupted into being entirely new species. Sauron, significant but lesser power as a Maya, specialized in craftsmanship, sorcery, and illusion, used manipulation, deception, and strategy, concentrated his power in the One Ring, corrupted existing beings rather than creating a new species. Morgoth, driven by nihilism and spite, wanted to unmake Eru's creation, desired worship and sacrifice, sought to destroy what he could not control, acted out of envy and hatred. Sauron, driven by a desire for perfect order, wanted to remake the world in his image, desired control and domination, sought to perfect what he saw as a flawed creation, acted out of a perverted sense of purpose. Morgoth left a permanent mark on the physical substance of Arda. His creations, dragons, balrogs, orcs, shaped the world's history, introduced fundamental discord into Eru's creation. His shadow influenced all subsequent evil. Sauron left political and cultural legacies through corrupted kingdoms. His ring maintained a connection to all rings of power, created systems of domination that outlived him. His methods of deception became templates for future evil. To truly understand Morgoth and Sauron, we must consider Tolkien's Christian conception of evil. In Tolkien's world, evil isn't an original force, but a corruption of good. Morgoth represents what theologians call radical evil, the desire to destroy for destruction's sake. His evil is nihilistic, seeking to unmake creation out of spite. Sauron represents utilitarian evil, evil committed in service of what is perceived as a greater good. He genuinely believed he was improving the world through order and control. This distinction matches Tolkien's statement that nothing is evil in the beginning. Both began with positive attributes that became twisted. Melkor's creativity and independence became destructive rebellion. Sauron's desire for efficiency and order became tyrannical control. A central theme in Tolkien's work is the sanctity of free will. The greatest evil is the domination of others' wills. Morgoth sought to dominate through fear and breaking spirits. He wanted slaves who obeyed out of terror. Sauron sought to dominate through the rings of power, tools that worked with subtle influence rather than brute force. The ring bearers weren't initially slaves, but became gradually corrupted. The One Ring itself represents this philosophy. It doesn't force obedience, but seduces with promises of power, while slowly subverting the bearer's will. Tolkien distinguished between creation, Eru's exclusive domain, and subcreation, what his creatures could do within his framework. Morgoth's fundamental error was attempting true creation. Because he couldn't truly create, he could only corrupt, leading to his frustration and nihilism. Sauron accepted his limitations as a sub-creator, but still sought to control all sub-creation. His rings were works of sub-creation that attempted to usurp Eru's authority over free will. Morgoth appears primarily in the Silmarillion, the Book of Lost Tales, and Tolkien's other posthumously published works. He looms as a distant but foundational evil. Sauron is the primary antagonist in The Lord of the Rings, but appears in different forms throughout the legendarium. His evolution from beautiful Deceiver to terrible Dark Lord is one of Tolkien's most developed character arcs. Morgoth's lesser-known aspects. The origin of gold. Lust. Tolkien suggested that Morgoth's presence in gold was particularly strong, explaining why dragon sickness and gold lust were so powerful. The fading of magic. The gradual diminishment of magic in Middle-earth may be tied to Morgoth's corruption, dispersing over time. The prophecy of Mandos. According to prophecy, Morgoth will eventually return for a final battle, where Turin Turambar will slay him with his black sword Gurfang. Morgoth's fear of Varda. Of all the valor, Morgoth feared and hated Varda, Queen of the Stars, the most, as her light was anathema to his darkness. Ungoliant's betrayal. After helping Morgoth destroy the two trees, the spider Ungoliant nearly devoured Morgoth himself, stopped only by his Balrogs. Sauron's lesser-known aspects. Shape-shifting abilities. Early in his career, Sauron was a master shapeshifter, taking forms including a serpent, a vampire, and a werewolf. His relationship with Celebrimbor, Sauron and the Elvensmith, who crafted the 3 elven rings, had a complex relationship of genuine collaboration before betrayal. The fate of the Mouth of Sauron. Sauron's lieutenant, the Mouth of Sauron, was a black Númenórean who had forgotten his own name after centuries of service. The significance of the Eye. The Eye of Sauron wasn't just symbolic, but a manifestation of his will and perception. His brief repentance. Sauron genuinely considered repentance twice, after Morgoth's fall and after the downfall of Númenor. With Sauron's final defeat, the Fourth Age began, the Age of Men. Magic diminished, and the elves departed Middle-earth. But the legacy of both Dark Lords remained. Morgoth's corruption remained in the physical world itself. Sauron's political divisions continued to influence human kingdoms, the cultural memory of their evil-shaped societies for generations. According to Tolkien's legendarium, Morgoth remains imprisoned in the void, but is prophesied to return for a final battle. Sauron's spirit endures, but is reduced to impotence, unable to affect the world again. This difference is significant. Morgoth, despite his greater power, might eventually return to threaten Arda. Sauron, for all his cunning, has been permanently neutralized. When we compare these two Dark Lords, we find not just a master and apprentice, but two fundamental different approaches to evil. Morgoth, the primordial chaos, the destroyer who sought to unmake creation out of spite and envy. His evil was raw, emotional, and ultimately self-destructive. Sauron, the corrupter, the deceiver who sought to remake creation in his image. His evil was calculated, rational, and ultimately self-defeating. Together, they represent the dual phases of evil in Tolkien's world, the chaotic destruction that tears down, and the rigid order that stifles freedom. Their stories remind us of Tolkien's central themes, that power corrupts, that free will is sacred, and that even the mightiest can fall to pride and the desire for domination. In the end, both were defeated, not by greater power, but by what they could never understand: courage, sacrifice, and mercy. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the shadows of Middle-earth. If you enjoyed this exploration, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, remember, not all those who wander are lost.